with the Wettlaufer trial, which is scheduled now for January the 3rd, 2023. Apparently, Miss Wettlaufer did not respond to any documents I sent her, trial record and so forth, because she is being protected by our government. She's a serial killer, and she did not respond. Therefore, the courts are, I would think, extremely happy, and they're saying she is undefended, which puts me again at a not so good situation, because again, they're not allowing her to talk. The reason behind this is because she would take the stakeholders, the profit owners, right down. She would be able to identify people in the long-term care home and all of what they did wrong. And these would be the defendants in the second trial of mine. So the first trial will be January the 3rd, 2022, for 2 hours with a judge in London, Ontario. He's going to see what I'm owed as far as damages and psychological stuff. It's going on 8 years for me anyway. Not for the registration of the documents. They were all done on time. But for me, my father was murdered August 2014, and I went downhill right after, during and after. And I have not worked yet. I don't even know how I'm making it, I tell you. But anyway, I'm making it. Not very well. I'm living in an RV right now. For the longest time, I've lost everything. Number 2, so Miss Wettlaufer is saved. Her ass is saved. So that's one trial that is scheduled. The second one will be August the 1st, 2023. That's what they call a pre-trial. That's where the judge and defense and everything are going to discourage me to go forward with the real second trial, which is scheduled for January the 8th, 2024. There's been a ton of prejudice against me from these defense lawyers, I've got to tell you. I've been beaten up, chewed up, and spit out from legal terminology here with these defense lawyers. In any regard, the discovery that we had back in October of 2021 was a complete joke. Because the main, team leader, Mr. Wayne Morris, who is the attorney for Meadowpark, Carressant Care, VP, and all the others. Anyway, there was a lot of privileged information that they tried to get out of me. They actually had a very interesting scenario where my defense lawyer, which I fired back in 2020 or 2019, Mr. Gilby from Learner and Learner, who broke quite a bit of ethics. It turns out that he broke another ethic, and when I was having my discovery, you do have doctor-patient confidentiality. And with that, I guess Mr. Gilby somehow got a hold of extremely personal, private emails that I was emailing to my psychologist at the time, back in 2012, 2013. And apparently that got to the defense attorneys, if you can believe it. This guy was supposed to be for me, defending me. And he slumped this whole thing off as a car accident when they registered it as a non-car accident. It's actually a murder of my father, an abuse of my father, and trauma to me. Anyway, so I just found that surprise out, that Mr. Nigel Gilby personally delivered some incriminating, or not even incriminating, personal, extremely embarrassing, but personal emails between a psychologist and their patient, which was me. I'd called the psychologist up, and she said she's going to stand up for me in court, because that is bullshit. So somehow somebody hacked into my computer, something happened, but there was information coming up during a discovery that was supposed to have been questions strictly and strictly about my father's murder, but they weren't. They were questions about how much money did I make, how, oh my God, the car crash which happened way back, the psychologist which said I'm better and what I'm suffering is my dad's murder. Anyway, it was all just very, I don't know, slanderous to me, victimizing to me. It was really, really, really bad. It was a smear campaign from all the defense lawyers. So that ended not very good. Anyway, so that will be interesting to talk about. And also right now, my friend is helping me. He's a private investigator, was an OPP cop. We are now getting together and getting our witnesses together. It takes a while to locate where they all ran off to. But we are doing that as we speak. Okay, recently I'm very pleased and happy to say that I won 3 motions that the defense threw at me for the course of the last 3 years. The very last one, they wanted to consolidate my Wettlaufer case with their case, because I'm suing. I have 2 lawsuits, one against Miss Wettlaufer and the other against several defendants, Meadowpark, London, long-term care, Carressant Care, the vice president of Carressant Care, the recruiter, Heather Nicholas, in Meadowpark, the Ontario Nurses Association. They got quite a humdinger of a lawyer. And anyway, so I'm suing them for damages and what have you and post-traumatic stress, and it's really bad, and I know what's happening to me. Nobody else does. And like I said, folks, I haven't worked for 8 years. I am so grateful that I have a little pension coming in, because without that and the help of many people supporting me in different ways, I think I'd be a long time now on the street or living in my truck. So I won 3 motions. 2 of those motions, I received transcripts and documents. The 3rd motion was just recent, and the most strangest thing happened on the Zoom call when we did the motion with the judge and the defendants, of course. Of course, the judge dismissed that motion to consolidate the 2 trials because it's they're totally different. But also what happened was when we first started, the judge was asking, where is my response motion? When somebody puts a motion against you, you have to respond and prove them opposite and prove why you want the motion dismissed and put all your proof down. It's called a response motion. I did that, and I actually went physically into the court, had it stamped by a court clerk, and oddly enough, 2 weeks later, whatever the case was, the judge didn't receive it. I was totally floored. And the defense just sat there listening and saying, first, she didn't receive it. And I thought, So I told the judge, yeah, I did hand it into the court. And then the second time, the defense lawyer for O&A coughed it up and said, yeah, actually, Susan, only maybe it was a couple pages, Your Honor. No, not really. Susan had about 16 pages. I had to correct that lie, too. I didn't know lawyers can lie. Like, this is something I have to read up more on. But apparently they are allowed to. I guess, or so I've heard. But I can't. But anyway, so we got a hold of the response motion, half an hour gone in the 3rd motion. Judge had to go through it, review it, read it, and then turned around and said they're going to dismiss it. He was trying to communicate to the O&A lawyer, but apparently she was just hammering him over and over and over and over, just grabbing from the sky what she could, and it just didn't stick to the wall. So they dismissed the motion. Again, I won, and now the conspicuous dilemma is that the judge will not release that transcript. So I'm waiting for that now, and if that doesn't come at a certain time, I've spoken with attorneys who are helping me, and they said then I have to move forward. I've got about 3 or 4 other steps I will have to do to retain the transcript, which has my privileged information in it. I was part of it, and the lawyers I've spoke to have never heard of this before. I got to tell you, they're like dumbfounded. So we have to now go through that argument or fight. So anyhow, so that's been done. The Law Society is still protecting my injury lawyer, who, like I said, broke many ethics, wasted 2 years of my life. It was pathetic. He was the most rudest lawyer, most threateningest, intimidating, and rudest lawyer I've ever met. Narcissistic. In any event, I put in a complaint in the Law Society, of course, is still waiting for their results, and they said it would be about a year, and that was in March. They're just playing head games. They're protecting one of their own is what they're doing. So that's still under wraps there. And then, of course, I contacted CTV, Global, CBC, all of the government and provincial-controlled mainstream media, of which there's a consensus out for them not to touch my story. Because, of course, Miss Wettlaufer is absolutely protected. The Corrections Canada just called me not too long ago, and I laughed in her face, because they said Miss Wettlaufer will not be back in Ontario till about March, because the first trial is happening in January. Funny how the courts here in London and judges and Corrections Canada and the Pinel Institute in Montreal, where Carla Homolka was, how they can communicate. Isn't it amazing? It's like one big family, and they're just like, I mean, they think I can't see this. So in any event, that corrupt trial will be starting January the 3rd, 2023. Myself, my assistant, and the judge. And we're going to see how that flies. And then we're moving on to the next. The second trial, where the prejudice came in big time because they weren't even trying, the defense weren't even trying to get any form of appointments as close to possible to the first trial, made it all the way to January the 8th, 2024, of course, and I put that in as well for January 8th, 2024, because they were just, no, Your Honor, can't come now, no, Your Honor, can't do that. Oh, it's like, have you ever heard the word shit fest? Yeah, that's what it was. Even with that, there's no cooperation from them to me. Matter of fact, they tried real hard to crawl behind a lawyer who was trying to release the drug companies, which I authorized to release out of my defense because I had too many defendants. So I let 5 defendants go, and these were the drug companies. Well, wouldn't you know it, what a sneaky trick. One of those lawyers actually, behind my back, tried to swizzle in on documents. Now, get this, the rest of the defense lawyers and their defendants, because they thought I was truly a blonde and that I wouldn't catch on, that they were right behind this lawyer trying to, I was, like I said, let go of 5 defendants. The others wanted to go as well. The good news is we had a very intelligent, smart judge who would not allow that to happen. So that was another motion they lost. So